Dae-Hyun stared at the number on his credit chip and felt his stomach drop. 47 credits. That was all he had left in the entire galaxy. His cargo ship sat in the repair bay 3 levels below, completely dead. The mechanic had quoted him 8,000 credits to fix the engine. 8,000 credits he didn't have. He walked through the trading station marketplace, passing stalls selling exotic foods and expensive electronics. Everyone around him seemed to have money, seemed to have purpose. He was 32 years old and had nothing to show for it except debts and broken dreams. The auction house was tucked into a corner of the station he'd never visited before. A small crowd gathered outside, mostly aliens of species he recognized. Dae-Hyun wandered inside, not sure why. Maybe just to feel like he was doing something instead of drowning in his problems. Inside, an auctioneer stood behind a podium. Various items scrolled across holographic displays. Ship parts, salvage rights, mining equipment, things Dae-Hyun couldn't afford even if he wanted them. Then something strange appeared on the screen. An entire settlement, buildings, streets, infrastructure, located on a moon called Vela 7 in a system Dae-Hyun had never heard of. Next item, the auctioneer announced in a bored voice. Lot 773, former mining colony on Vela 7. 42 structures, full utilities, solar power systems. Atmosphere breathable for most species. Starting bid 500 credits, the crowd murmured. Someone laughed. Dae-Hyun leaned forward, confused why anyone would laugh at property. Nobody? The auctioneer asked. The place is completely functional. Perhaps the location is remote, but still. 400 credits? An alien with 6 arms made a gesture Dae-Hyun didn't understand. Others whispered among themselves. That moon is cursed, someone said loudly. Everyone knows that. Not cursed, another voice corrected. Just poisoned. Bad air or something. I heard it was wildlife. Killed all the miners. The auctioneer looked annoyed. The atmosphere readings are in the documentation. Perfectly safe. 300 credits. Silence. 200. More silence. People were already leaving. 100 credits then. Surely someone wants to own an entire town for 100 credits. Dae-Hyun's hand went up before he could think about it. Every eye in the room turned to him. We have a bidder, the auctioneer said, sounding surprised. 100 credits. Any other offers? The crowd laughed again. Someone patted Dae-Hyun on the shoulder like he'd told a good joke. Going once. Going twice. Sold to the human for 100 credits. Just like that, Dae-Hyun owned property. An entire ghost town on a moon he'd never heard of. He paid his 100 credits and received a data chip with coordinates and legal documents. The auctioneer seemed eager to complete the transaction and move on. Outside the auction house, Dae-Hyun examined the chip. The documents were old, written in 3 languages. They seemed legitimate enough. The coordinates pointed to a moon about 3 days' travel away in a forgotten corner of space. He should have felt stupid. He'd just spent almost his last credits on something that might be worthless. But instead he felt something else. Something like hope. At least he owned something now, even if nobody else wanted it. His friend Tae-Jin ran a repair shop on the station's lower levels. When Dae-Hyun explained what he'd done, Tae-Jin stared at him like he'd grown a second head. You bought what? A town on a moon. For 100 credits? Yes, Tae-Jin set down his welding torch. Do you know why it was only 100 credits? People said it was cursed. Or poisoned. Or had dangerous animals. And you still bought it? Dae-Hyun shrugged. What else was I going to do? I'm broke. My ship is dead. Maybe I can salvage something from the town. Sell some equipment. At least I'll have options. Tae-Jin studied him for a long moment, then sighed. You're either the dumbest or the luckiest person I know. Maybe both. He walked to a storage locker and pulled out keys. Take my shuttle. If you're going to check out your ghost town, you'll need transportation. I can't take your shuttle. You'll bring it back. Probably. And if you find anything valuable, you owe me a finder's fee. Dae-Hyun gripped the keys tightly. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just don't die on some cursed moon, okay? I'd feel bad. The shuttle was small but reliable. Dae-Hyun loaded it with supplies. Food rations, water purifiers, a basic toolkit. Everything he could afford with his last few credits. He filed a flight plan and launched from the station 3 hours later. Space travel was usually boring. 3 days of nothing but stars and silence. Dae-Hyun spent the time reading everything he could find about Vela 7. There wasn't much information. The moon had been colonized 40 years ago by a species called Velans. They'd mined rare minerals until the deposits ran dry. Then they'd abandoned the place, no mention of curses. No reports of poison or dangerous wildlife. Just an empty settlement that nobody wanted anymore. As Vela 7 came into view, Dae-hyun felt his breath catch. The moon was beautiful, blue and green with white clouds swirling across its surface. It looked almost like Earth. He descended through the atmosphere, following the coordinates to the settlement. The town appeared below him, spread across a valley between two mountain ranges. Even from above, he could see the buildings were intact. Streets laid out in neat grids, solar panels still reflecting sunlight. He landed the shuttle in what looked like the main square. The landing gear touched down on smooth pavement. Dust rose in clouds around him. Dae-hyun sat in the pilot's seat for a moment, just looking out at the empty streets. This was his now, for better or worse. He put on his environment suit just in case and opened the shuttle door. The air rushed in and his suit's sensors immediately flashed green. Breathable, safe. Not poisoned at all. He stepped outside and removed his helmet. The air smelled clean, with a hint of something like pine trees. A breeze blew between the buildings, creating an eerie whistling sound. The town was eerily preserved. Buildings stood intact with windows unbroken. Streetlights lined the roads, probably still powered by those solar panels. He walked down the main street, his footsteps echoing. Everything was covered in dust and dirt, but nothing looked damaged. It was like everyone had simply walked away one day and never came back. Then he saw them. Footprints in the dust. Fresh footprints. Dae-hyun's heart started pounding. Someone was here. Someone was living in his ghost town. He followed the prints down a side street. They led to a small house at the edge of the settlement. The door was closed but unlocked. He pushed it open slowly. "Hello?" A figure moved in the shadows. Then suddenly a woman stood before him, holding a metal pipe like a weapon. She was tall, with skin that seemed to shimmer with crystalline patterns. Her eyes glowed faintly with blue light. A Velen behind her, clutching her leg, was a small child. Also Velen. "Also terrified. Get out!" the woman shouted in broken standard language. "This is my home." Dae-hyun raised his hands, showing he was unarmed. "Wait, please, I'm not here to hurt you. You're human. You're all the same. You take everything. I just bought this place at an auction. I didn't know anyone still lived here." The woman's glowing eyes narrowed. "You bought it?" "For 100 credits. I have the deed." She lowered the pipe slightly, confusion replacing some of her fear. 100 credits? They sold our entire colony for 100 credits? The little girl started crying. The woman immediately knelt down, comforting her in a language Dae-hyun didn't understand. He stood there awkwardly, not sure what to do. He'd bought a ghost town, but it wasn't a ghost town at all, and now he had to figure out what that meant. 2 weeks after fixing the communications array, Dae-hyun contacted Tae-jin back at the trading station. His friend's face appeared on the screen, looking skeptical. "You're still alive then," Tae-jin said. "I was starting to think the cursed moon got you." "Not cursed. Just forgotten." "Listen, I need a favor." "Another one?" "Spread the word that there's a new way station here. Vela 7. Good prices on fuel, basic repairs, clean places to sleep. Tell the independent traders." Tae-jin raised an eyebrow.
"You're actually setting up shop there?"
"I am, we are." "We?" Dae-hyun explained about Hana and Isul, about the partnership they'd formed. Tae-jin listened quietly, his expression shifting from skeptical to surprised to thoughtful. "So you bought a ghost town, found abandoned aliens, and decided to start a business with them," Tae-jin summarized. "That's about right. You're either crazy or brilliant. I haven't decided which. Maybe both. Will you help?" Tae-jin grinned. "Sure, I'll tell people. But if this works, you owe me a huge favor." "Deal." The first ship arrived 3 days later, a small cargo hauler not much different from what Dae-hyun used to fly. The captain was a human woman named Bo-ra, middle-aged with gray streaking her hair. She looked suspicious as she walked down her ship's ramp. "This is the way station?" she asked, looking at the empty streets. "It is," Dae-hyun said. "What do you need?" "Fuel cells are running low. Could use a meal that isn't dried rations. Maybe a real bed for a night." "We can provide all of that," Bora narrowed her eyes. "What's the catch?" "No catch. Fair prices. Good service. That's all." She followed him to the fuel depot where Hana was already preparing the equipment. Bora stopped short when she saw the Velen woman. "Didn't expect to see a Velen here," Bora said carefully. Hana looked up from her work. This is my home. I run the technical operations. She knows these systems better than anyone, Daehyun added. Bo-Ra watched as Hana efficiently connected the fuel lines to her ship. The work was professional, quick, and flawless. Bo-Ra's suspicious expression slowly changed to impressed. How much? Bo-Ra asked when the fueling was complete. Daehyun named a price about 30% below station rates. Bo-Ra's eyes widened. That's actually reasonable. Almost too reasonable. We're new. Building reputation. Word of mouth is valuable. You've got that right. Bo-Ra paid and looked around the town. This whole place yours? Ours. Daehyun corrected, gesturing to include Hana. Partnership. Over dinner that evening, which Hana prepared using vegetables from her hydroponics, Bo-Ra told them about trade routes and which traders might be interested in a remote way station. She seemed genuinely impressed with the operation. I'll tell people, she promised as she left the next morning. Good work here, both of you. After she left, Isul came running from where she'd been hiding, watching the stranger. She was nice, the little girl said in standard. Her vocabulary had grown tremendously. She was, Hana agreed. And she'll tell others. We might have more visitors soon. Hana was right. Over the next month, 6 more ships stopped at the way station. Word was spreading among independent traders. The ghost town that had been empty for years was slowly coming back to life. Daehyun and Hana developed routines. He handled arrivals and departures, managed supplies, and dealt with customers. She maintained equipment, handled technical repairs, and kept systems running. They worked well together, their skills complementing each other. Isul thrived with new people around. She was shy at first, but gradually started greeting visitors. The traders were charmed by the little Velen girl living in a ghost town. Many left small gifts for her, toys and treats from their travels. Then one afternoon, everything changed. A sleek passenger ship landed in the square. The design was Velen, expensive and well-maintained. A male Velen emerged dressed in formal clothing. His crystalline skin patterns were more pronounced than Hana's, marking him as someone important in their culture. Hana was in the machine shop when Daehyun found her. We have a visitor. Velen. Says his name is Sang-woo. The color drained from Hana's skin patterns. Sang-woo? You know him? He's from our colony. From before. She set down her tools with shaking hands. I didn't think anyone would come. They met Sang-woo in the administrative building. He stared at Hana like he was seeing a ghost. Hana, is it really you? Hello, Sang-woo. We thought you were dead. Everyone thought you died here with Kwan-ho years ago. We almost did, but we survived. Sang-woo looked around at Daehyun and the restored building. What is happening here? Why are you running a way station with a human? Hana explained, keeping her voice steady. About being forgotten, about surviving alone, about Daehyun buying the town and offering partnership instead of eviction. Sang-woo listened with an expression that shifted between shock and discomfort. When she finished, he shook his head slowly. This is not proper. You are a Velen widow. You should be with your people, not working with an outsider. My people left me here, Hana said quietly. This outsider helped me. You should come home. To the homeworld. Your family will help you. I have no family left. My parents are dead. Kwan-ho's family wanted nothing to do with me. That was before. Now that you're alive, things will be different. They'll want to meet Isul. At the mention of her daughter, Hana's voice turned cold. They had no interest in helping us when we were trapped here. Why would I trust them now? Because she's Kwan-ho's child. His family has rights, Daehyun spoke up. Rights to a child they never tried to rescue? Sang-woo turned to him. This is a Velen matter, human. It doesn't concern you. It concerns me because Hana is my partner. This is her home. Her home should be with her people. The argument was interrupted by Isul running in. She saw the strange Velen adult and immediately hid behind Hana's legs. Sang-woo stared at the little girl. She's small for her age. She's healthy, Hana said defensively. I've made sure of that. Still, a child should be around other children, around proper Velen culture, not growing up in a ghost town with only a human for company. After Sang-woo left, promising to return, Hana sat in silence for a long time. Isul climbed into her lap, sensing her mother's distress. He's going to tell others, Hana finally said. Kwan-ho's family will hear. They'll want Isul. Can they take her? In Velen law, Extended family has rights to children if the primary parent is judged unfit. They could argue I'm unfit because I'm living on a remote moon in poverty, running a business with an alien. That's not poverty. We're doing well. They won't see it that way. Hana looked down at Isul. They'll see a desperate widow who couldn't even save her mate, now dependent on a human's charity. Daehyun felt anger rising in his chest. It's not charity. It's partnership. I know that. You know that? But to them, she shook her head. The next blow came 3 days later. A different ship arrived. This one marked with corporate logos. Helix Dynamics, the mining company that had originally owned the colony. A well-dressed man emerged. His name was Young Sik, and he introduced himself as a legal representative for Helix Dynamics. We've become aware that this facility is operational again, Young Sik said, his voice professionally polite. We need to discuss the legal situation. I own this place, Daehyun said. I have the deed. Yes, we've reviewed the auction documents. However, there's a complication. When Helix Dynamics abandoned this colony, the abandonment papers were filed incorrectly. We still technically hold the mineral rights to this moon, which includes subsurface rights that encompass some of the infrastructure. That doesn't make sense. The auction was legal. The auction was legal for surface structures only. The power systems, water recycling, anything underground, those remain corporate property. Hana stepped forward. You left us here. For 7 years. You didn't care about any of this. Young Sik barely glanced at her. Business decisions are not personal, madam. The fact remains that significant corporate assets are being used here without authorization. So what do you want? Daehyun asked. Cessation of operations. Immediate. We're prepared to offer you a small settlement for your trouble. 5,000 credits. This place is worth far more than that, not to us. We have no intention of reopening the mine. But we can't have unauthorized operations using our property. It sets bad legal precedent. Young Sik handed Daehyun a data chip. You have 2 weeks to cease operations and vacate. If you refuse, we'll pursue legal action. And I assure you Helix Dynamics has far more resources for litigation than you do. After he left, Daehyun and Hana sat in stunned silence. They can't do this, Daehyun said.
Can they?
I don't know human law, but corporations usually win against individuals. Isul sat between them, sensing the tension. Are we losing our home again? She asked in a small voice. Hana pulled her daughter close. I don't know, sweetness. I don't know. That night Daehyun couldn't sleep. He'd finally found something worth fighting for. A home, a purpose, a partnership with Hana that had started to feel like more than just business. And now forces beyond their control were threatening to take it all away. He looked out at the empty streets of the town. Not so empty anymore. Not really. They'd brought it back to life. He wasn't going to let it die again without a fight. Daehyun didn't move. The woman still held the metal pipe, though not as threateningly as before. The child clung to her mother's leg, peering at him with wide, frightened eyes. My name is Daehyun, he said slowly, keeping his hands visible. I really didn't know anyone lived here. The auction said the town was abandoned. The woman studied him for a long moment. Her crystalline skin caught the light coming through the window, creating small rainbow patterns on the walls. Finally, she lowered the pipe completely. Hana, she said quietly. My name is Hana. This is my daughter, Isul. It's nice to meet you both. Daehyun tried to smile in a way that seemed friendly and not threatening. Can you tell me what happened here? Why are you still here? Hana looked at Isul, then back at him. She seemed to be deciding something. Come, sit. I will explain. They moved to a small room that served as both kitchen and living space. The furniture was worn but clean. A hydroponics unit hummed in the corner, growing vegetables. Isul sat close to her mother, never taking her eyes off Daehyun. My people came here 40 years ago, Hana began. Her standard was accented but clear. We found minerals in the mountains. Good minerals. Valuable. The Velen Mining Corporation built this town. Many families came to work. What happened? The minerals ran out. 12 years ago. The corporation decided to leave. They gave everyone 6 months' notice. Most families left on the first ships. Some stayed longer to finish work. My mate Kwan Ho and I planned to leave on the last ship. She paused, her eyes distant. 3 weeks before the last ship arrived, there was an accident in the mines. A tunnel collapsed. Kwan Ho was trapped for hours. When they pulled him out, he was badly hurt. Internal injuries. Broken bones. Daehyun felt a knot form in his stomach. I'm sorry. The ship couldn't wait. The corporation said no. Either we leave or we stay. Kwan-ho couldn't travel. Moving him would have killed him immediately. So we stayed. They promised another ship would come in a few months. But it never did. Hana shook her head. No ship came. We waited. Kwan-ho recovered slowly. Very slowly. We had medical supplies left behind. Food and storage. The solar panels still worked. I kept hoping someone would remember us. How long has it been? 7 years since the last ship left. 5 years since we stopped seeing any passing vessels. 2 years since... She looked at Isul. Since Kwan-ho died. The little girl leaned against her mother. She looked about 4 years old, maybe 5. Daehyun did the math in his head. She must have been born here after the colony was abandoned. So you've been alone for 2 years? We've been alone for 7 years, Hana corrected. Kwan-ho was dying slowly. He couldn't work, couldn't help. I maintained the systems, grew food, took care of him and Isul. She touched her daughter's hair gently. Isul has never seen another person besides me and her father. Never left this town. Daehyun looked around the small house. Despite everything, Hana had kept it clean and organized. The hydroponics unit was well maintained. Solar panel controls on the wall showed green lights. She'd survived through skill and determination. Why didn't you use the communication equipment to call for help? The main communication array broke 3 years ago. Lightning strike. I tried to fix it, but I'm not a communications engineer. I know mining equipment, power systems, life support. Not complex electronics. There must be emergency beacons. I activated them all. For 2 years, I activated every beacon in this town every single day. Nobody came. Eventually, the beacons ran out of power. I had to choose between beacons and life support. I chose life support. She said it simply, without emotion, like she was explaining a practical decision, which it was. What did you plan to do? Daehyun asked. Just stay here forever? Hana's glowing eyes met his. What choice did I have? I have no money. No way to contact my people. Even if I could, I have nothing to offer them. In Velen culture, a widow with a child and no resources is, she searched for the word, a burden. We would end up in refugee housing. Government charity. It's shameful. Shameful to accept help. Shameful to have no independence. To contribute nothing. She gestured around the house. Here I have a home. Isul has stability. We survive with dignity. Better to die here than beg on a station somewhere. Daehyun felt something twist in his chest. Here was a woman who'd been abandoned by her entire species, who'd watched her mate die, who'd raised a child alone in an empty town, and she still spoke of dignity and shame. What will you do now? Hana asked. You own this place legally. You could make us leave. The question hung in the air between them. Legally, she was right. The town was his. He could call authorities, have them removed. It would be well within his rights. Isul chose that moment to speak for the first time. She said something in Velen, tugging on Hana's sleeve. Hana responded in the same language, her voice soft. She asks if you're going to hurt us. Hana translated. Daehyun looked at the little girl. Her eyes were the same glowing blue as her mother's. She'd spent her entire life in this ghost town with only one other person. She didn't know what a crowded station looked like. Didn't know about ships and trade in the busy galaxy beyond this moon. No, he said firmly. I'm not going to hurt you. Either of you. Then what? Hana's voice was cautious, like she was afraid to hope. Daehyun made a decision. It was probably stupid. It was definitely impulsive. But sitting in this small house, looking at a mother and daughter who'd been forgotten by everyone, he couldn't imagine doing anything else. You can stay, he said. Hana blinked. What? You can stay here. This is your home. I'm not going to throw you out, but you own it now. So, I bought it to figure out what to do with it. I need time to think. Meanwhile, you've been living here for years. You know the systems. You've kept everything running. He gestured at the functioning lights, the humming hydroponics. You've probably kept this place more valuable than it would be otherwise. Why would you do this? Hana asked. You're human. Everyone says humans only care about profit. Daehyun thought about the auction house. The laughing crowd. Buying a ghost town because he was desperate and broke. Not all humans. Some of us are just trying to survive too. You want something in return? Eventually, maybe. Right now, I just want to look around. See what I actually bought. You and Isol can stay in this house. I'll set up somewhere else. We'll figure out the rest later. Hana stared at him for a long moment. Her crystalline skin pattern seemed to shift colors slightly, though Daehyun didn't know enough about Velens to know what that meant. Okay, she said finally. We accept your offer, temporarily. Temporarily, Daehyun agreed. Now can you show me where I might set up? Somewhere with power and basic facilities? Hana stood still cautious but less hostile. The administrative building. It was where the colony manager lived. It has its own power systems. I check it weekly to make sure nothing breaks. That sounds perfect. As they walked to the door, Isul suddenly ran forward and grabbed Daehyun's hand. She said something in Velen, looking up at him with those big glowing eyes. She says thank you for not being scary. Hana translated. There was something in her voice. Maybe the beginning of trust. Tell her she's welcome, Daehyun said. They walked through the empty streets together, Hana pointing out different buildings and explaining what they'd been used for. The ghost town suddenly felt a little less ghostly, a little more like a place where people might live again. Daehyun didn't know what he was doing. He'd bought this place on impulse with his last credits. Now he was letting strangers stay here, making promises he might not be able to keep. But looking at Hana and Isol, at the hope starting to show in their faces, he thought maybe impulse wasn't always wrong. Maybe sometimes the best decisions were the ones that didn't make sense on paper. He'd figure out the rest later. Right now he had a ghost town to explore and new neighbors to get to know. The administrative building was larger than Daehyun expected. 3 stories with offices on the lower floors and living quarters above. Dust covered everything, but the structure was sound. Hana showed him how to activate the power systems, and lights flickered on throughout the building. I check all the buildings every month, Hana explained as they walked through empty rooms. Make sure nothing is breaking down. This one is in good condition. You've been maintaining the entire town by yourself? Not all of it. Just the important systems. Power grid, water recycling, structural integrity checks on key buildings. If I let everything fail, we would have nothing. Daehyun looked at her with new respect. She wasn't just a survivor. She was an engineer keeping an entire abandoned colony functional. The first week was awkward. Daehyun spent his days exploring the town, making lists of everything he found. The place was a treasure trove of equipment, machine shops filled with tools, a medical bay with supplies still sealed in storage, dozens of housing units in perfect condition, underground storage facilities packed with spare parts and materials. He started to understand why the town had been worth more than 100 credits. It wasn't worthless at all. The mining corporation had just written it off as too remote to bother with. Hana kept her distance at first. She would appear occasionally to show him something important, then disappear back to her house. Daehyun respected her space. Trust had to be earned. Isol was different. The little girl's curiosity overcame her shyness. On the 4th day, Daehyun was working in the machine shop when he heard small footsteps. He turned to find Isol standing in the doorway, watching him. Hello, he said carefully. She said something in Velen. Her glowing eyes were fixed on the tool in his hand. I don't understand, Daehyun admitted. My Velen is terrible. Actually, I don't speak any Velen. Isol tilted her head, then pointed at the tool. What? She asked in standard. This? It's a plasma welder. For fixing metal. Welder, she repeated, the word awkward in her mouth. Yes, want to see? She nodded eagerly. Daehyun showed her how the welder worked, keeping it on low power. She watched with complete focus, fascinated by the blue light. Hana appeared a few minutes later, looking worried. She spoke sharply in Velen, and Isol's face fell. The little girl shuffled toward her mother. I'm sorry, Hana said to Daehyun. She shouldn't bother you while you work. She's not bothering me. I was just showing her the tools. Still, she needs to learn boundaries. But the next day, Isol was back. And the day after that. Slowly, a pattern formed. She would watch Daehyun work, and he would explain what he was doing. She taught him Velen words. He taught her standard words. Her vocabulary grew quickly. One afternoon, Dae-hyun was eating lunch when Isul approached with her hands behind her back. She looked nervous. "Hello, Isul." She pulled her hands forward, revealing a small package wrapped in cloth. "For you." Inside was a protein bar from Hana's supplies. Simple food, but precious to people with limited resources. "Did your mother say you could give me this?" Isul nodded. "Mama says you share your food. We share too." Dae-hyun felt a lump in his throat. He'd been eating some of his rations in front of Isul and sharing small amounts. Now they were reciprocating, even though they had so much less than him. "Thank you," he said. "This is very kind." Isul beamed at him. Then she ran off, back to her mother. That evening, Hana knocked on the administrative building's door. Dae-hyun invited her in, and she stood awkwardly in what had been his living room for the past week. "I wanted to apologize," she said. "For what?" "For being cold. Suspicious. You've been kind to us, and I've been treating you like a threat. You had every reason to be suspicious. I'm a stranger who suddenly owned your home. Still, Isul likes you. She talks about you constantly, about the tools you show her, the words you teach her. She's never had that before. She's a sweet kid. Smart too." Hana smiled, just a little. It was the first time Dae-hyun had seen her smile. "She is. And I think perhaps we could try trusting you more. I'd like that." They stood there for a moment, not quite comfortable but not hostile either. "Progress. Can I show you something?" Hana asked. She led him to a building he hadn't explored yet. Inside was a communications array, just as she'd described. The equipment was old but sophisticated. "This is what broke," Hana explained. "I've studied it for 3 years. I understand the basics, but I can't fix it alone. Too complex." Dae-hyun examined the systems. He wasn't an expert, but he'd learned a lot about ship communications during his cargo hauling days. "I think between the two of us we might be able to repair this." "Really?" "Maybe. No promises. But we can try." They worked together over the next several days. Hana's technical knowledge complemented Dae-hyun's practical experience. She understood the theory. He understood how to improvise with limited tools. During their work sessions they talked. Hana told him about Velen culture, about her life before the colony. Dae-hyun told her about Earth, about cargo hauling, about the desperate auction that brought him here. "So you spent your last credits on this place?" Hana asked while soldering a circuit board. "Basically. Seemed like a good idea at the time. And now?" Dae-hyun looked around the room, at the equipment they were fixing, at Hana working intently beside him. "Now I think it might have been the best stupid decision I ever made." She glanced at him, those glowing eyes unreadable. Then she returned to her work. But there was a hint of a smile on her face. Finally, after 6 days of work, they reconnected the last power coupling. The communications array hummed to life. Lights blinked across control panels. "It's working," Hana whispered. Dae-hyun checked the systems. "We're connected to the communication network. We can send and receive messages now." Hana put her hand over her mouth. For 7 years she'd been cut off from the galaxy. Now suddenly she could talk to anyone. "What do you want to say?" Dae-hyun asked gently. She thought for a long moment. "I don't know. I thought about this for years. Imagined what I would say when I could finally send a message. Now I can't think of the words. We don't have to send anything today. Just knowing we can is enough." But Hana shook her head. "No. I want to send something." She moved to the console and started typing. "I'm sending a message to the Velen homeworld, letting them know I'm alive. That Isul is alive. That we're safe." She hit send. The message streamed into space, heading toward her people light years away. "How long until they respond?" she asked. "Could be days. Could be weeks. Depends on relay speeds and if anyone's monitoring that channel." Hana nodded. She looked tired but relieved. "Thank you for helping me fix this." "We fixed it together." They walked back through the town as the sun set. The streets looked less empty now. more like a place waiting to be filled rather than a tomb. I have an idea, Daehyun said as they reached Hana's house, but I want your opinion first. What idea? This town has everything a small trading post needs: power, water, space for ships to land, facilities for repairs. What if we turned it into a way station? A place for independent traders to stop, refuel, maybe stay a night. Hana considered this. Would anyone come? This place is very remote. Remote locations can be valuable. Traders like me are always looking for cheap places to resupply. If we offer good prices and decent service, word will spread. And you think we could run such a place? I think we'd need to work together. I know traders and what they need. You know this town and its systems better than anyone. We could make it work. What would you want in return? A partnership. Equal split of any profits. You and Isol stay in your house. I stay in the administrative building. We run the way station together. Hana looked at him for a long time. Why are you doing this? Really? You could sell this place, sell the equipment, make money, and leave. Daehyun thought about the auction house, about being broke and desperate, about finding Hana and Isol alone in this forgotten place. Because selling and leaving is what everyone else did, he said. And look where that left you. Maybe it's time someone stayed and built something instead. Hana's crystalline skin patterns shifted through several colors. Okay, she said finally. Let's try. Partners. She extended her hand. Daehyun shook it, sealing their agreement. From her house's window, Isol watched them, her small face pressed against the glass. When she saw them shake hands, she jumped up and down excitedly. The ghost town had been empty for 7 years. But now, with 3 people committed to bringing it back to life, it didn't feel quite so empty anymore. It felt like the beginning of something new. Daehyun spent the next 3 days researching legal documents until his eyes hurt. The deed he'd bought was legitimate, but Young Sik was right about the mineral rights being separate. The legal language was complex and confusing. He contacted several lawyers, but their consultation fees alone would bankrupt him. Hana watched him work himself into exhaustion. On the 3rd night, she brought him food from her kitchen. You need to eat, she said, setting down a plate. I need to figure this out. Not if you collapse from starvation. She sat across from him. Maybe we should accept their offer. 5,000 credits is more than we had. It's not enough, and it's not right. Right doesn't always win against powerful. Daehyun looked up at her. In the weeks they'd worked together, he'd come to know her expressions. Right now she looked defeated, tired, like someone who'd fought too many losing battles. I'm not giving up, he said. Why? This place was only worth 100 credits to you a month ago. Now you're willing to fight a corporation for it? He wanted to tell her the truth. That it wasn't about the money or the property. That somewhere along the way, this had become about her and Isul. About not letting them lose their home again. About the partnership that had started to feel like something more. But he just said, because it's our home now, worth fighting for. Hana's crystalline patterns shifted colors. She didn't argue further. The next morning brought more trouble. A Velen ship landed, larger than Sangwoo's. 3 Velens emerged, 2 males and 1 female. They wore formal clothing that marked them as high status. Are you Hana? The female asked. I am. I am Jae-hee, Kwan-ho's sister. This is his brother Min-ho and cousin Dong-woo. We've come to see our niece. Hana's entire body went rigid. How did you find us? Sang-woo told us. He was right to do so. We thought our brother's child was dead. Now we learn she's been raised in poverty on a forgotten moon. She hasn't been in poverty. She's been loved and cared for. Jae-hee looked around at the ghost town with obvious distaste. This is no place for a child. Especially a Velen child. She needs proper education, proper society, proper culture. She has culture. She's learning both Standard and Velen. She's healthy and happy. She's being raised by a single mother with no resources in partnership with a human. Min-ho spoke for the first time. No offense to you, human, but this is not appropriate for Kwan-ho's daughter. Daehyun stayed quiet. This was Hana's battle to fight. I am her mother, Hana said firmly. I've kept her alive when everyone else forgot about us. And we honor that, Jae-hee said in a tone that suggested she didn't. But now we're here to help. Come back to the homeworld with us. Kwan Ho's family will provide for both of you. Isil will have a proper home, education, opportunities. She has opportunities here. Working in a way station? Dongwu laughed. That's an opportunity. It's honest work. It's independence. It's beneath you. Jae-hee stepped closer. Hana, be reasonable. You have nothing here. No wealth, no status, no future. We're offering you a chance to give your daughter the life she deserves. And what would you want in return? The three family members exchanged glances. Nothing unreasonable, Jae-hee said. Just that Isil be raised properly, in Velen traditions, with family guidance. You mean you want control of her? We want what's best for her. Sometimes a mother's love isn't enough. Sometimes a child needs more than one guardian can provide. Isil chose that moment to appear from where she'd been hiding. She ran to Hana and clung to her mother's leg, staring at the strangers with fear. Jae-hee's expression softened slightly. Hello, little one. I'm your aunt. We're your father's family. Isil buried her face in Hana's clothing. She said something in Velen that Daehyun didn't understand, but it sounded scared. She needs time, Hana said. This is overwhelming for her, of course. We'll stay a few days. Get to know her. She'll see we only want what's best. But Jae-hee's tone suggested this wasn't really a request. After they left to settle into guest quarters, Hana sank into a chair, holding Isil tight. They're going to take her, she whispered. I can feel it. They think I'm unfit. Are you? Daehyun asked. Hana looked at him sharply. I mean legally. Do they have grounds to claim you're unfit? Under Velen law, maybe. A single mother with no resources, living on a remote world dependent on alien charity. They could make that case. It's not charity. How many times do I have to say it? I know, but they won't care what you say. She looked down at Isil. Maybe they're right. Maybe she would have a better life with them. Do you believe that? Hana didn't answer for a long time. Then quietly, no, but what I believe doesn't matter if they have the law on their side. Daehyun felt helpless. First, the corporation threatening to take the town. Now Kwan Ho's family threatening to take his soul. Everything they'd built was falling apart. That night he couldn't sleep again. He went to the communications room and started pulling up old documents looking for anything that might help. He found it at 3 a.m. A colonial registry document filed 40 years ago when the Velens first arrived. It was written in 3 languages, Velen, Standard, and an older trade language. He ran it through translation software 3 times to be sure he was reading it correctly. His hands were shaking as he printed the document. At dawn, he ran to Hana's house and knocked on the door. She answered looking exhausted, like she hadn't slept either. I found something, he said. In her kitchen with Isil still sleeping, he showed her the document. This is the original colonial charter, he explained, filed by the Velen Mining Corporation when they first established the settlement. Look at the dates, Hana read carefully. Her eyes widened. This was filed 6 months before Helix Dynamics bought the mining rights. Exactly. The Velens established legal claim to the land first. Helix Dynamics bought mineral rights, but the surface property was already claimed by the Velen Corporation. They never owned the land itself. But the Velen Corporation abandoned the colony. They abandoned the operation. But look here. Daehyun pointed to a clause in the document. Colonial law states that if a settlement is abandoned, property rights transfer to remaining inhabitants after 5 years. You've been here for 7 years, Hana. This land legally belongs to you. Hana read the clause again and again. And if it belongs to me, then it belongs to you. Not Helix Dynamics. My deed would be invalid, technically, but so would their claim. You're the legal owner. You have been for 2 years. Why didn't I know this? Because you were busy surviving. And probably because you never thought to look up colonial property law. Hana stood up, pacing the kitchen. Her crystalline patterns were shifting through colors rapidly. Something Daehyun had learned meant strong emotion. If I own this place, she said slowly, then you're not dependent on anyone's charity. You're a property owner. A business owner. You have resources and independence. Exactly what Velen culture respects. And Kwan Ho's family would have a much harder time arguing you're unfit. You're not a desperate refugee. You're a successful business owner providing for your daughter. Hana stopped pacing and looked at him. Why would you do this? If I own the property, you have nothing. You spent your 100 credits for nothing. Daehyun had thought about this during his sleepless night. We make a new deal. You own the land. I provide the business expertise and connections. We stay partners. Equal split of profits like we agreed. But you'd be working for me, essentially. Working with you. There's a difference. Most humans wouldn't accept that. I'm not most humans. They stared at each other across the kitchen. Isel stirred in the other room but didn't wake. Why are you really doing this? Hana asked. Tell me the truth. Daehyun took a breath. Because somewhere along the way, this stopped being about a business opportunity. You and Isul aren't just partners. You're family. Or you could be. And I won't let anyone take that away if I can help it. Hana's patterns shifted to colors he'd never seen before, soft blues and purples that seemed to glow in the dim kitchen light. I don't know what to say. Say you'll fight. Say you won't let them push us around. Us? Us, partners, friends, whatever we are. Hana smiled. A real smile full of hope and determination. Okay, we fight. They spent the morning making copies of the Colonial Charter. Daehyun contacted the few lawyers he'd spoken with before and shared the document. One of them, a Velen lawyer named So-Yoon, reviewed it and confirmed his interpretation. This is solid, So-Yoon said over the communication link. With this document, Hana has clear legal ownership. Helix Dynamics will have to back down. And the family issue? That's trickier. But ownership of significant property does strengthen her position considerably. She's not a desperate refugee. She's a business owner and property holder. That matters in Velen family courts. When Young Sik returned 2 days later with legal documents for them to sign, Daehyun and Hana were ready. We're not signing, Daehyun said simply. Young Sik frowned. Then we'll proceed with litigation. You won't win. Hana stepped forward, holding the Colonial Charter. This settlement was established by Velen Colonial Corporation, before Helix Dynamics bought mineral rights. You never owned the surface property, and under colonial law, after 5 years of abandonment, property rights transferred to me as the remaining inhabitant. I am the legal owner of this land.